And he looks at me, he goes, when I was your age, they told me by the time I was 70, we'd be working 20 hours a week. Man, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. We've got Colin, Raby, and Grant Muslow on the pod. Of course, here with Turner, Wes, and I, and they are the CEO and CTO of Farm Smarter AI, and they're going to tell us all about their business, how they met, where, and basically everything that has happened since they started the company, since they met, and where they are right now. So thanks for hopping on, guys.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we just start off with what Farm Smarter AI is? Because, AI is obviously a hot topic. And to me, the farming industry is not necessarily a huge technology-based industry. So how do y'all get that started?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of people don't realize that farming may actually be one of America's most complicated industries. And a lot of people just think, they think of their local garden, right? Or your garden outside. Oh, I'm going to put the seed in the ground and then it's just going to grow. Well, when you're doing industrial scale farming, there's so much other stuff you have to worry about. Whether it's insects decimating your crop, whether it's your soil being bad, so you're not getting as good yields as you need, whether it is weeds decimating the soil, also decimating your crop, whether it is the crop insurance you want to get in case there's a hurricane or in case someone comes and burns and decimates your crop, right? There's all these different things. So you add on to the fact that there's all this agricultural research being done every year. There's all this new great science being put out about what the best practices to do. And how much of that reaches the growers? Very little of it, right? Because look, if you're an industrial scale grower, you've got a lot to worry about. You can't spend every single day reading the most recent research that's come out, especially because so much of the research is kind of buckshot, right? It all comes out about all these weeds and all these different plants. Well, you only want to know, if you're a sugarcane farmer in Point Coupee, Louisiana, you only want to know about the research that applies to a sugarcane farmer in Point Coupee, Louisiana, who might be using a certain type of environmental control, not all this other stuff. So kind of the thesis of what we're doing is we're taking the huge swath of information available and turning it into actionable intelligence for growers and consultants. So that is all this academic research that's coming out about how to optimize your yields. That's all the regulations that are coming out. Recently, the Environmental Protection Agency released an entirely new herbicide strategy. It's this 100-page thick regulatory framework that when we were at a pitch competition, we literally printed it out and just dropped it. It was like, who here wants to read through that? Okay, I read through it. I don't want to read through it. Nobody wants to read through this. It's complicated, it's tough, but it turns out if you apply modern technology, you can actually make it really easy to comply with. You can make it super intuitive. You can say, okay, here's the giant if-then tree. Here's the part where we need AI. And we can get into more the details of how we have a niche here. But this is all regulations are all deterministic, right? If this, then this. If this, then this. If this, then this. And so you can make that, if you're clever in how you do it, into something that's really easy and intuitive for someone to follow, rather than basically just not caring at all, right? Because if it's too complicated, either A, you're going to burn a lot of time and resources trying to comply with it, or B, you just won't. And you'll just take the risk that, I might get caught. If I get caught, I get caught, right? And that's not good for anyone, right? It's not good for the taxpayers to pay some expert to say, this is what we need to make sure isn't happening, just for most of the population to completely disregard it, right? It's either you want better regulations or you want people to actually follow it, one or the other. So it's if we can get all this information in a way, whether it's regulations, whether it's research, whether it's economic predictions, whether it's soil analysis, all of these different optimizations that typically we think of optimizations and we think of numbers, right? But now we can optimize language. And because we can optimize language, we can optimize for concepts. And if we can optimize for concepts, then we can optimize your growing strategy so you can minimize your cost and maximize your yields and your revenue. And that's the whole premise, that a lot of people that are building these AI agent systems, they're not thinking about agriculture, right? Y Combinator recently releases a thing about how every different industry, every single vertical is going to have an AI agent network that's going to power the intelligence of that vertical. And they listed all sorts of verticals. They listed healthcare. They listed fintech. They listed education. You know what never even came up in conversation? Agriculture. the people that know what to do, the people that know how to build are not looking at the real value that they can bring to this industry. And so that's what we want to do. And we look forward to kind of telling you about how we found our way to doing it.
Well, it sounds like
Wow.
you've got a ton of opportunity there for sure. So
Yeah, we definitely think so.
100%.
Yeah.
my first question is, why don't you tell us about kind of the different services that you offer and kind of how those exactly help the farmer?
hmm so everything kind of comes back down to the fact that we have this agentic network. Okay. What is an agentic network? Okay. You can think about it a little bit like, so right now we're seated at the end of this conference table, right? You can think of an agentic network, think of it as a ton of experts sat around a conference table, right? But instead of these being human experts, they're AI experts, right? We take this AI and we train it to be the world's best expert in whatever, in pesticide and herbicide application, in all 16,000 EPA approved pesticide and herbicide labels, in economics, in GIS, in the research that's coming out from these research institutions, right? You have all of these AI experts that then, when someone needs to analyze something, whether it be a question or whether it be an automated flow that's part of the system that's automatically figuring out how to optimize their stuff, right? It's like throwing down a question in front of all the experts, right? And saying, hey, we need this solution, right? So let's just say it is, I'll do something easy and it might not make sense. I'm just kind of giving an example here. So let's just say you want to get rid of Johnson grass in your sugarcane field in Point Coupee, Louisiana, right? So like, all right, I need to get rid of Johnson grass in Point Coupee. Well, the research assistant might see, hey, well, the research shows that this active ingredient and this active ingredient and this active ingredient are very effective, right? And then they might toss it and say, so here's my suggestion. And the regulatory expert might come in and say, whoa, 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 whoa. Louisiana Title VII says that you can't use that between these dates. So, like, don't even try, or you're going to incur a huge fine, right? So, we need to strike those off the list. Send it back to the researcher and say, oh, good point. Well, okay, if we can't use those, then we can use this one. And then pass it off to a safety one that's like, well, you got to make sure because if the temperature's over this, right, it might not work. So, send it back to the researcher. Say, hey, try again. And then, okay, well, now we have a plan. Hey, economist AI, does this make sense? Economists say, I was like, I mean, yeah, you can do 5 different tank mixes and a whole bunch of different applications, but you're going to lose a ton of money. So we can't do that. We need to have something that actually makes people money. Send it back. Try again. All these experts collaborating to come up with, here's your plan. Right. And so when we say an agentic network, basically we took all of these different AI systems and built our own agentic network, right? Not using AWS, not using any of these agent frameworks that's come out this year, right? Now all of a sudden AI agents are the hype. The first iteration of our system we had in November. Like we built our own architecture from scratch to have these agents really cleverly and reliably interacting with each other in ways that, whether it's a Q&A pattern or whether it's just you're putting in a ton of information about your farm, you're doing the things that you're already doing. Whether that is having your consultant take field notes about what's going on, whether that is producing the field maps that you need to do, whether that is going through your regulatory stuff to make sure that you're in compliance and getting all the documentation used, all these workflows that you're already doing, if you can put it into this system, and then that data can serve to say, hey, I see you're doing this. What if you do this? Hey, this new regulation came out. Have you considered this? Oh, this new research came out. Have you considered this? There's a lot of really interesting ways where once you connect the dots, once you take the scattered landscape of all these different agricultural softwares and bring them under one umbrella, and the base is the agricultural intelligence engine, this agentic network that we built that's like kind of this virtual brain of experts, and you take all of these different points and you say, hey, if you can do all these workflows, and then underneath it, it natively integrates to this, very smart virtual ag expert. There's a lot of really cool, insightful workflows you can get to maximize what people are doing and help when unpredictable things happen.
Mhm. Yeah. As as our resident computer scientist who loves AI, you fascinated me within 30 seconds, man, and I'm just thrilled by everything that you've just described. But for our audience to get a bigger
Yeah.
picture there, I would appreciate it if you guys could explain each of your backgrounds and what you guys have brought to this, because a lot of the things in building a business, well, we've gotten a great picture for what your business is. Now I'm curious, how did you guys get there?
hmm
So my name's Grant Muslow. I'm getting my master's in computer science and artificial intelligence at LSU. We actually met
Mhm.
inside of an LSU AI class in 2023, fall
Yep.
2023. It was the first class ever created on large language models, which is what powers ChatGPT and all of those different AI services nowadays.
Mhm.
And we were taught how to basically take these new pieces of technology and use them for certain applications in that can help actual people. And what happened was we kind of formed these different teams. First time me and Colin meeting each other, and someone walked in. His name is Dr. Stevenson of the LSU Ag Center. He's like, "Well, AI people, I have this problem. I have manuals and manuals and manuals sitting everywhere.
Mhm.
And I have people calling me saying, Hey, Dr. Stevenson, how do I figure out how to get rid of my Johnson grant?" And Dr. Stevenson's like, "Well, if you looked at the page 135, table 4, section 3 of the LSU Ag Center manual for 2024, then you would know that you can use blah, 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 blah."
Right. And that might just get you the active ingredient, right? It's like, hey, this table contains this active ingredient. So then they say, well, what has that active ingredient in it? Well, you could use this product, this product, this product. It's like, okay, well, which product should I use? Well, depending on your situation, you should use this. Okay, how should I apply it? Should I use a hooded spray? Should I use this nozzle? Should I use this? Okay, when should I apply it? Oh, how should I apply it? Oh, if it gets over this temperature, right? All of these things that Dr. Stevenson is spending an inordinate amount of his time not doing the ag research that he wants to do, but just bridging the gap between the research they've already done and actually making it applicable to growers, right? Taking the research that's stuck on tab 7 of the Ag Center's website and just being that conduit to be able to educate the grower about it or educate the consultant about it. And so it was really quite interesting and serendipitous that it's like, all right, so we create this class, one of the first classes in the nation, on how to use large language model systems in economically beneficial ways, right? Because the idea at that point, in the fall of 2023, people were still thinking, oh, these are cool to use for like poems and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
like, it's not really doing anything economically fun, right? But we're like, no, no, no. Like, this is going to legitimately change the world. We need to be teaching students how to use these things and build them into systems. And so, we do all the projects. As mentioned, one of the people that comes in is Professor Stevenson. He mentions that, and we think, we both kind of think we didn't know at the time, but we're like, yeah, that sounds like a cool project. Like compared to everything else that was presented, a couple local businesses came and made their pitch. But we thought, you know what? At least on my end, I thought, this is a really interesting like we're now optimizing for language, right? So in engineering classes, you have to take if you're doing any sort of engineering, you have to take calculus 1. The
Mhm.
worst part of calculus 1, I think for anyone, is optimization, right? Nobody likes it. Everybody does poorly. It destroys everyone on the exam, right? But the interesting part about AI, and I've been using these systems and since their inception, been doing like theoretical research and then had to get into the applied side. This entire time I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like we've been able to do optimization using calculus for numbers for years, for like 100 years. We've been able to use numbers to do optimizations. Well, now we can optimize language. Like, what is that even going to mean? What is that going to mean for all these different things that we've never been able to optimize before because it's just been too big? It's been too much information for any human or group to synthesize. Well, what does it mean when we have a system that can do that? And so I thought, coming into this, we're like, all right, at the time, even just with simple retrieval stuff, it was a tough challenge, right? Compared to some of the other ones, we're like, all right, let's see if we can take all of this information from the LSU Ag Center and make it available via some sort of like chat line. And then so we do that. That's our like project that semester. And it comes out okay. It's good. But all it has is the LSU Ag research, right? So it can't really say anything outside of that. So if you ask it anything like synthesis, it can't really do too much, but it's good for what it does. So we go to the Ag Center and we're like, hey, like, can we deploy our thing on y'all servers so like people can like go on and use it? And they're like, what servers? Like, we don't know. That's not we don't do this. We've never deployed an AI system on servers, but like we went to the IT department that worked with the Ag Center and they're like, No, we don't know how to do this. We can't. That's a security risk. That's a this risk. We can't do that. And so there was the fall after that. So I'm sorry, the spring after that, spring of 2024. Our university, LSU, has a venture challenge every year. And so I thought, all right, let's see what happens. Let's submit an application. The first round of applications is you submit a 2-minute video saying, what's your 2-minute pitch. And so we went out to the greenhouse at LSU where there's all these different plants and filmed a little video kind of describing what we described at the beginning here of how there's all these folks that are going through this process of, okay, in this situation, what active ingredient do I need? What product do I need to use? How do I use it? When do I use it? All this stuff and kind of explaining the problem. We got through that round. And at this point, all the people involved were engineers. So now we had to write a financial projection and a business plan. It's like, great, guess I got to learn how to do this. We ended up kind of partnering with a couple folks at our business center that kind of helped us out with some of that. We ended up getting through that round. And then in the final round with the top three, we all went up and gave a pitch and we ended up winning that pitch. So, hey, now we have some seed money here. We can actually get our own server and try deploying this. So, but the funny part, so we won that competition in like May of 2024. Well, then it was summer, right? Like we all had our plans to like go do stuff over the summer. So like, oh, we have this, and so over the summer we continued talking about it. We started to plant the seeds for it, do a little bit of work, but then really kind of at the beginning of August we regrouped and we're like, all right, let's make this work. We were a couple of us were in DC. I was in DC. A couple of us were in Baton Rouge, and so we start. We have our 9 to 5s, but this became to 5 to 9, or more realistically, the 9 to midnight. And where we'd be plugging away, doing stuff. And then in October, I think I sent like a message in our thing. I'm like, we need to do a panel of expert system, dang it. And people like, no one was talking about these AI systems these agentic systems then. And it was like, all right, let's see how we can do this. We ended up we found a way to do this architecture. And so then we had a kind of prototype of the current iteration of our system in like December. We had some people beta testing it January and February of 2025. We launched the first iteration early March 2025, then in April. So this whole time, I've been just applying to other pitch competitions because why not? I'd heard of a couple of these pitch competitions. Let's apply. We ended up getting into every single pitch competition that we applied for, and then we ended up doing pretty well at them, right? So we were the first LSU team to come in top 7 at the Rice Business Plan competition. We won the Louisiana State Pelican Cup, which is the state's business pitch competition. We placed at Baylor's pitch competition. We were the first LSU team to place top 3 at the Arkansas Governor's Cup. And then just you can see behind us, we were the first team to win the Louisiana Nexus Tech Cup, which they just did. So it's like, all right, great. Now we have a little bit more fuel to really fund this. And we've been making a ton of really good progress, building out the system, building out the team that's going to be able to implement this, and making our first partnerships and deals with consultants and growers, and hopefully soon some enterprise level deals with folks not only across the state, but across the nation.
Wow.
Wait, so how many pitch competitions was that you
So in
guys compete?
total, let's see, we had the LSU Venture Challenge, we had Baylor, we had Rice, we had the Arkansas Governor's Cup, and we had the Pelican Cup. So that's like 5. Oh, and then Nexus. So that's 6. Oh, and then we competed at SEC. So
Yeah.
because we won our schools, we competed at the SEC pitch competition, but our pitch was atrocious. Like I will be the first to say,
Yeah.
we didn't know, like
Wait.
our pitch worked for our venture challenge, but then we like changed some stuff. It was our first real like pitch thing. We didn't really know what we were doing. The business plan was very unrefined. It was like tech people doing cool tech stuff, but the business plan was shaky. So like
Yeah.
we didn't we didn't place in that
We're
one.
also super new at that point. We're
Yeah.
we're
Oh
the
yeah.
newest company there.
Oh yeah.
By far.
Yeah, there was companies there. There was one company, the company that won the SEC pitch competition had existed for like 10 years, had 13 patents, and they started their presentation by showing a picture of a dying baby on an incubation tube and was like, we created a better way to save this baby. It's like, all right, fine, you win. Take the money. Um, so yeah, we were like, even statistically, out of all the companies there, we were the newest one there. So it's like, all right, cool. But it was good practice. It helped to refine. We met some really good people that were part of the Ag Center at Florida at A&M. And then when all these other pitch competitions came around, we had something to refine, right? We weren't starting from scratch. It's like, all right, now let's take this thing and let's polish it up. And for every next iteration of these pitch competitions, we've been able to polish not only the presentation, but the actual plan itself to like better plan how we're going to grow this thing, aside from the technical specs of building it.
So do y'all have customers lined up?
We do, yeah. So We have a couple, some consultants that are currently using it, a couple growers that are using it. We've definitely been in, like, we've been for the last couple of months, we've been transitioning from a purely AI kind of company, right? We have this cool agricultural intelligence engine to, okay, we need to find better ways for people to use this agricultural intelligence engine, right? Because like it's really cool. It can do a lot of powerful things. Nobody knows how to use it, and inputting data to it is not fun. So we need to build ways to make it intuitive to use and intuitive to input data. So that's where we kind of expanded it to this idea of having a whole platform of we're like, all right, if people are already taking field notes, if people are already doing this, let's just build a platform where they can do it on this platform and it natively integrates and informs the agricultural intelligence agent. So then you can take all the field notes, all the weather, all the NDVI data, all the soil data, all the information that you've put in about your field, and that can all be fed into the agricultural intelligence engine, and it can spit out these super precise, super applicable results that it could never do if you just didn't have that personalized input data that we are achieving through making, like, basically through taking these old apps, right? These apps that might have been made in the year 2000 that are kind of clunky and just remaking them with like modern tech, making the UI better, and then integrating it into the platform so that it makes it super easy, right? Easier to take your field notes, easier to do this. Oh, and then by the way, now our AI can like inform you to do really awesome stuff and like optimize your economics for the next growing season and all this stuff. Um, so yeah, we've definitely been more in a building mode the last few months, but we just actually brought on about 3 people who are gonna help with, like, marketing. And so we're really excited. We think kinda early September, we're gonna start a real marketing push for a lot of what we're doing. Um, and get the name out there once the platform is more established. And, we wanna make sure that once we're making that push, we're ready to absorb all, hopefully the people that come onto it. And, like right now, there's questions. If we really blew up right now, we actually don't know how many people the system could handle before like everything just crashes. It's like, all right, how about we go and build it more robust, build it like take all this like duct tape and paperclip systems that we made up to this point and like make them actually out of steel, right? So that we know we can grow effectively now that we have some resources to do so. So that's really what we've been doing over the last month or so. But I mean, like I said, we already have a couple consultants, a couple growers, and we're in talks with, I mean, I won't float the names, but a couple large kind of enterprise agricultural organizations that are interested on two spans, right? Span number one is they're interested in just providing this to their growers so they can be more profitable, right? If you are someone who takes the output, the agricultural output, and you refine it before it hits the market, the best thing for you is if those growers are more profitable, because then you can get it at a lower price and you can make more money, right? And so there's multiple different organizations that do that type of thing that are interested. Or if you're a large agricultural producer, you have something called chemical sales reps, right? And these are people who ideally when your product can be used in a efficient way, they will recommend the product and work with you similar to a consultant, right? Just using that company's products. Well, the problem, we've talked to a couple of these companies, it's actually pretty darn hard to train people to know all the, like, if you're Bayer, if you're Monsanto, if you're like these huge companies, you have a lot of products, right? It's a lot for one person to know. And so potentially building this will never infiltrate the core system, but building custom white label versions for them that specifically have their products in them is something that we're in talks of and very interested in, and open to doing.
Very cool.
I have a technical question and then a fun question
Yeah,
for you.
no doubt.
So, first question is it sounds like everything you've just described is more of like an in cloud kind of model based on what I think you said. So, would you ever consider building local mini models for them? That's the first
Yeah,
question. And then, well, I'll just let you answer the first question,
no,
hopefully concisely if you
yeah.
can.
So I'll give a short answer and then I'll let Grant expand on it. So
Mm.
it's interesting you said that. So within our agentic network, there's actually like sometimes people they'll say like, "What LLM are you using?" We're like, "We can't answer that question because we're actually using multiple different ones to do different like jobs, right? That are different good at." And for a time, we were actually using a locally hosted model to like do some of that because it was literally more efficient. Now, also on the non-text side of things, there was a time where we had full access to LSU supercomputer. And we thought, all right, we can't let this go to waste. This is our all golden opportunity here. And so we started running some experiments. So, like Grant specifically started running an experiment. He's like, all right, there's all these plant identification things, right? All these different apps that can identify a plant, right? Well, like none of these models have been updated recently. I wonder if we just like ran it and like we tried it with a whole bunch of data, how good we could get. And so Grant just ran this experiment on the supercomputer and got like a really good result. Like we expected it just to be like a kind of a BS like throwaway experiment. But then like the results of that showed that the model that resulted from it not only was twice as good as one of our competitors, but you could quantize it and download it on your iPhone because
Wow.
you could download it for 150 megabytes through some clever engineering, right?
And
And so it was like, ooh, this is interesting. So since then, we've been training some new models, and the idea is that not only can you quantize it, put it on an iPhone, so you could use it without any sort of connection, but that also extends to drones, robots, etc. going forward.
Mhm. Most definitely. And when it comes to like the other parts of the network as well, what we're looking into, possibly with some enterprise deals and
Mhm.
whatnot, very niche applications, is that if you go on our website right now, you have a choice between a couple of different models.
Mhm.
And one of those models is just having that pesticide expert
Mhm. Mhm.
of our model and being able to ask questions about it. Super fast, super lightweight, and super mobile as well. So you're able to basically just ask it whatever question you want about a pesticide and get an answer like that with astonishing accuracy,
Yeah.
you know?
So for context, there are still many agricultural organizations that literally have a book. They have a binder, a very thick binder of all of these pesticide, herbicide, and insecticide labels, right? And these labels are like the law governing their use that's put out by the EPA. And so currently, like we were talking to someone, we went to the Memphis Farm and Gin Show, and we were talking to this research organization that talked about how they spent an hour flipping through the labels to try to find some information. I was just like, stop it. Stop. Never do this again. Never stop it. Just stop. Funny enough, if you asked Perplexity what they were looking for, Perplexity would hallucinate and tell you it couldn't find the answer. We asked our pesticide expert, and in about like 10 seconds, it found the answer. It cited the label, and then you could just click the citation, and it showed you exactly where in the label it said that. And they're like they thought it was magic. They're like, no, this is that's not like live. We can't like, yeah, just go on, use it. Like this isn't a demo video. We just did this in front. Like
Mhm.
you can just do this. And so like that's like some context as to like um there's so many things where people just have it that they're using an antiquated way of connecting with the relevant information, and then on top of that, synthesizing that information in intelligent ways.
Is that
Yeah.
sort of like a ChatGPT wrapper, or is that entirely different?
So like the pesticide model we were talking about, um, no, because of a lot of reasons. So before it became popular, right now you hear some people, and without going into too much depth here, but now you hear a lot of people talking about post-RAG applications. Okay, I'll stop here for anyone that
I don't
doesn't
know
have.
what that means.
Yeah, yeah, all good. So RAG is called Retrieval Augmented Generation, right? Generation? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why I thought that G word. Anyway, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Basically, what that means is it's a way to take these large language models and allow them to find information from documents, right? So you basically take all these documents, you
Yeah, very large databases
very, very
of
large.
documents consist like one of our databases for just pesticides includes 16,000
Mhm.
different pesticide labels. Those can range from 20 to 200 pages. So, like, if you just give that all to an LLM at once, it's going to completely panic and start hallucinating left and right.
Right.
We
So,
talking
people,
gigabytes of data here
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
terabytes?
Many.
Or
So for the image model, terabytes. For the language model, we haven't gotten
yeah,
a
for
terabyte yet.
the image
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
I think we're totaling 30 terabytes.
Yeah.
30 plus. No, well, it's going to double, so it might
Yeah.
get to 60
Yeah.
terabytes
Yeah.
of data. Um,
Storage is not cheap.
and it is not cheap at all. Yeah.
But anyway, to answer your question, like, so some people might hear about whenever there's a new model release, they hear a little bit. One of the things you'll see all the labs talking about is the context window, right? And what that means is like, so I think OpenAI is saying that their like native context window is like 250. I might be wrong about that. I know 4.1 is like a million, and then Gemini they say it's a million. But basically, what that means is there's only so many words. Right, there's only so many tokens. There's only so much information that the large language model can have in its short-term memory. Right, so the large language model itself, you can think of it as like this crystallized intelligence, right? It read through every book on the internet and it learned all these associations, right? That's like crystallized intelligence, right? What a context window is that short-term memory, right? So let's just say you give it 10 pages of a book, right? It can have a photographic memory and know exactly what is all on those 10 pages. Okay. If you give it 10,000 pages, it's too much, right? You can kind of think of it as this moving window. And once it gets past that window, right? So let's just say it's a million, right? Once you get past a million tokens or a million words, just simplify a token, it will just start forgetting what's outside of that window, right? So the million and first token, well, it'll forget the first word. The million and second token, it will forget the second word, right? And even as you get close to the token limits, right? Even as you get close to the million, its ability to understand those tokens decreases the closer you get to the context window. All of that to say, the more information you just throw at the models, the worse they do. And like not too dissimilar from a person in that regard, right? If I tell you, look, I want you to be an expert at this one sentence, you can probably like memorize a sentence in like, a couple minutes, right? Now, if I say I want you to be the expert on this whole volume of work, that's going to take you years, right? And it's like the large language model also can only look at so much information. And so what RAG does is it allows these models to basically cut up all this information and be able to retrieve it as needed, right? So we cut up all this information and we say, okay, right now we need information about this topic, right? So we go out and we find anything that's either semantically or lexically similar to that topic, right? Either it's like keyword search, right? Lexical, right? It's literally the same word, right? So like find all the things we're talking about dogs, right? Okay. So go out and find every time that a pesticide says it could hurt a dog, right? For instance. So it can go out and find every like literal keyword of dog, but it can also semantically understand the meaning of dog. So it might find anytime it says this pesticide is harmful to animals. Oh, well, since a dog is an animal, let's include that. That's useful information, right? So it's more than just a command F, right? So we can go out and find both the lexical, the command F, and the semantic, the understanding of what it means, and bring it all together. Well, the problem when we have too many documents is sometimes even that exceeds the context window. So you have to do it again, right? So you go out and you find all this information, and then you do it again. And this whole process is called re-ranking. This has been the kind of standard in AI for a while, is RAG. Well, now you see people starting to talk about like post-RAG, these kind of, it doesn't matter what these mean, but these raft systems and all this other stuff. Well, back earlier this year, we came up with a method of agentic retrieval, right? So like for our main pesticide expert, we don't really use RAG in a typical sense. We use this different way where we've without kind of getting too much, we've indexed all of the information. And so it's able to find the pertinent information way quicker and way more accurately than if you just stuck all these documents, you converted them into a way that the machine could understand and ran typical RAG, which is how these AI systems are able to understand these large quantities of information. Does that make some sense there?
Yeah.
Just checking my explanation here. I don't know.
No,
Sometimes I
you're
don't
doing
know.
great.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Wes, was there a second part of that question?
Let's see here. Oh, I had another different question that was just a more
Yeah.
of a fun question. Um, Perhaps slow us down a little bit. So, in your title, or not your title, but your company's name, Farm Smarter AI, does
Mhm.
the AI officially stand for artificial intelligence or agricultural intelligence?
Agricultural intelligence, of course. Yes. Yes.
Cool.
We thought it was very funny when, like, Apple Intelligence was coming out. It's
Yep.
like, "Hey, they did the thing," because like, we'd kinda been joking that we're agricultural intelligence, and they did Apple Intelligence. Ah, touche. Well done. Yeah. So, no, in everything we write, in every application, it's like, we've pioneered agricultural intelligence, parenthesis, AI, right? It's kind of a nice tip to the hat, you know? Yeah.
Clever.
That's super cool.
So y'all started this while you're at LSU? I mean, Grant, I know you're
Yep.
still there. Colin, you were finishing up and you graduated 2023, right?
I graduated in the spring of 2024.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
I've been out for about a year. It's gonna
Yeah,
be weird not going back to university this August.
for
Mhm.
sure.
Now, forgive me for not knowing. Graduate students or undergraduate student? Graduate?
So
I'm currently a graduate student, but we were undergrads at the time.
Mhm.
Both finishing up in engineering, senior design,
Yeah.
whole shebang, and that was That was crazy.
I mean, it
Trying to balance
yeah.
everything.
It
Yeah.
really is amazing, like, how all this so, like, one, this project came from the class,
Yep.
right? But the whole idea of the class itself, to go on a little quick tangent, because I don't think it's getting given enough credit for just how trailblazing it was. And I'm just gonna say, if, Professor Provost Haggerty ever hears this, all credit belongs to him here. So, basically, how this class came to be. So for a while, I had a lot of like kind of computer science friends. Myself, I was studying mechanical engineering, minors in aerospace engineering and economics, right? I thought I was going to go into aerospace and had some interest in economics and all that, right? So I was doing that thing, but kind of on the side, I had multiple different friends that were doing computer science, and they would talk about kind of AI, machine learning. A couple of them were really interested in it before it was much of a thing. And then especially over COVID summer, right? So COVID happens, everyone goes home, we have a lot of free time. I started just reading up about a lot of this stuff, just like out of interest. Like, what is a convolutional neural net? What is a feed forward transformer? Like, what is this stuff? What does it mean? Where is it going? Um, and so it was interesting to see, like, start to form the conception, like, oh, wait, if someone just spent like $1 billion in compute, they could actually maybe like train a system that does well. Like, all the research kind of shows that, like, if you scale this, it might work. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, then you get 2022, ChatGPT comes out with GPT-3. They did the thing. Hey, that's really cool. So like I, for instance, was definitely one of the hyper users in the early days. The analogy I give is like, imagine you open your garage and you see the guy across the street using the printing press, right? And it's like maybe the first iteration of the printing press. Be like, holy heck, like it doesn't matter where it's at right now. That's going to change the world, right? And so I started kind of using it a lot, and there was a business report article on kind of prompt engineering and like some stuff like that, but I wasn't a computer scientist. So I started bucking all my friends. I'm like, we need to make this. We could use this. We could use it to automate this. We could use it to automate this. And at a certain point, they were like, dude, learn to code. I'm like, real, fair. So then I start bugging. I go to our computer science department. I'm like, hey guys, do we have a class on like working with these large language models, right? Even if it's through an API, I want to use this. I want to learn how to use this. I want to learn what I need to know to use this. They're like, no, we have a class on machine learning that we've taught for like 20 years that really no one really likes, right? It's like introduction to machine learning. It's like, dang it. Well, fortunately, I was able to talk to the provost. We ended up talking about this idea for this class. He was able to recruit a researcher from Oak Ridge Labs who had been deep into neuromorphic computing with large language models. He was able to recruit him to come to LSU. So then our provost, Dr. James Gwally, and a local entrepreneur who started an AI consulting agency, Henry Hayes, all came together to form this class. And in that first class, there was 12 technical students. I want to say like 9 were computer scientists and then 4 were others. So it was like 9 computer scientists, 1 math major, 1 physics major, 1 mechanical engineering major, and 1 like bio major, because one of the projects was with Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. So like they were with like the hospital project. And like those 12 people, which I think is really funny in a lot of ways, were like the first ones to kind of start this class that this idea came out of, as well as multiple different other startups out of the LSU ecosystem, in just how do we use this new technology in the best ways, right? We don't necessarily have to train our own large language models. We need billions of dollars to do that. But how do we utilize the ones that are out there, whether it be open weight models that we can self-host or whether it be using through an API? And how you use that and all the infrastructure around it to make them do useful things.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
so
yeah.
you have given us a really great perspective into your company and how AI works, agricultural intelligence
Yeah.
works. And so I think for our audience, I'd like to just take a quick step back,
Mhm.
because our audience is going to be more the young, like your freshmen and your sophomore undergraduate students, probably,
Mhm.
because our goal is to get like to encourage them to jump into their own businesses. And
Mhm.
well, I would love to hear in just a second how you think AI can help them, because
Oh,
they're
wow.
not going to be using it for the same way as you
Uh-huh.
are, obviously. They're probably going to be not as familiar with it. They're not going to be computer science students. And
Yeah.
so, in just a moment, I'd like you to explain that, but keeping in mind that they're not going to be AI heavy. They're going to know almost nothing about this.
So Grant knows I'm about to go on like a million different rants here. But long story short, as we were founding this, before I graduated, I actually got involved in being like an AI consultant to a couple different businesses in town about literally like, all right, you have no one technical in your business. How should you be using AI to do this? And then when I did graduate, I spent 1 year in DC as one of the first congressional AI specialists, where literally my task was, how can all of these non-technical people in Congress use AI to do what they're doing better, more efficiently, more transparently, everything like that, right? So this is definitely something that's on my mind very frequently of like, obviously we're building and pioneering some kind of AI methods, but also like, how should people be looking into using this technology for everything? All right. So one, it is undoubtedly the best time in human history to start a startup for most people, right? We are literally at the beginning of a new age of humanity. So this is uh, uh, so about I guess 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I gave a presentation to a community advisory panel in Louisiana, and you can see like I made a post about that on LinkedIn and all this. Oh, as one does. And you can see the title of the presentation says "The Intelligence Age," right? And so this was fall of 2023, so in unison with that class. Well, then it was amazing. I don't know if y'all remember. What was the title of the OpenAI Super Bowl commercial in the fall of 2024?
Oh.
The Intelligence Age. And Sam Altman wrote a blog post titled The Intelligence Age. And I was just like, awesome. We did it, right? And the whole thesis is that, like, all right, if you ask academics, a slight tangent here, but I think it'll be interesting and it'll lead into why our people can like use this, right? So if you ask the academics, there's been three industrial revolutions, right? The first one, to super truncate them. In the first one, we generated a lot of power, right? This was the age of the heavy machines, the steam engines, right? We turned the steam into power, right? Okay, we were able to utilize power. In the next industrial revolution, right, in the second one, we were able to get that power out to everyone, right? Now we have electrical lines. So now we can have stoves. Now we can have toasters. Now we can have these home appliances that raise the standard of living for millions of people. Okay, great. So we have power. Now we've gotten the power out to everyone. Then the third revolution, we're able to use that widely accessible power to generate widely accessible information, right? This is where you get into the information age, right? Where you have the internet from all this available power, where you have cell phones, where you have communication, pagers, Bluetooth, all of these forms of getting information. And so the kind of hypothesis of the presentation and a little piece that I put out in our local paper was, now we're in an age where all this widely available information is going to be turned into widely available intelligence, right? Because now, just going back to the beginning of our presentation, right? The beginning of this conversation was, now we can optimize language, right? Now we can take all this information that beforehand was just stagnant information, that the computer could get information from one point to another, but it couldn't do anything with it. You still needed that human to synthesize it and derive it and guide it. Well, now we have systems that can understand that information, that can manipulate the information, that can do interesting things with the information, right? And so that's where all of the things where you before thought about like in numbers, we can now do it in language. So there's a couple things that like frequently, yeah, if you want to.
Data format is no longer a boundary. So that means any modality of data can now be transformed into another
Yep.
pieces of data.
Yep.
And that leads to many different interesting combinations of how you put things together and how you used to do old things, but now you can transform them in any sort of way and really take control of the data, whether it be in this format or that format. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
You can
It's
quite
funny.
literally make an image a million words.
Yes, exactly, right.
Or
Yeah.
the reverse.
Or the reverse, right? You can take
Yeah.
words and turn it into an image,
Or
right?
or turn an image into an action.
Yep.
Or an action into words.
Yep.
And it all goes back and forth. So there's no
Yep.
real boundary anymore
Yep.
when it comes to format.
And so a fun example of people not only using it in their business, but opportunities to make this into a business is, so for a while, I was thinking, all right, let's just pretend you know nothing about AI. what are the things that you're currently doing in your business that you shouldn't be doing, that you should be using AI for, right? And one of them is transformation. Grant hit it nail on the head. Because what this is able to do is translate raw information, raw data in whatever format it might come from one format into another. So when I was working with the congressional offices, I was trying to find a good way to communicate this, right? Because there wasn't really like, yeah, I can talk about turning an Excel sheet into a memo. That's cool. But like, I really want something that shows like who would have thought you could transform this modality of information into this modality of information. Well, if you've ever worked in or around a congressional office, you know that there's all these flyers. So people will just pass by the office and hand out these flyers, right? Hey, there's this event happening. There's this briefing happening. There's this thing happening, right? And the idea is you want to get the congressional staff to go out to your thing, right? No matter who you are. Like, wait, okay. So this flyer, one day a flyer comes in the office and I'm interested in going to that event. It was like an event on AI or something. I'm like, all right, I need to be there. So I get this flyer, I put it in front of me at my desk. I open Outlook. I type in the title, I click the date, I select the date, I go in, I put in the description, I put in the URL, I put in the location. I just kind of stop and think, what am I doing? No, we have data in one format that I want in another format. So as a way of just demonstration, I made this custom GPT where you literally just take a picture of the flyer and it outputs an ICS calendar link that you can then just share to your calendar, right? So it takes the picture of the event, right? This information in this format and turns it into information in a calendar link that you just save right to your thing. And congratulations, now it's in your calendar, right? And so I made it as a mode of just demonstrating, of like showing my office because it was great. And then I could use it in a couple presentations from like, hey guys, when you talk about transforming data, here's a cool example to get you thinking about whenever there's just raw data in one format, getting it to another format. Well, but I made the custom GPT public, so you can still find it. I think it's called like invite to calendar GPT, and now it has like over 1,000 uses. And like people actually started using it. I was like, guys, this is for instructional purposes only. Like sometimes it'll go wrong, and I didn't. But apparently it was useful, right? And so people started using it. So it's like transformation, right? Any instance where there is friction, right? Any instance where whether it's at an industry scale, right? If it's at an industry scale, there's an opportunity to create a business, right? Because the industry's struggling with something, create a business to solve that pain point, right? So anytime there's transformation, there's opportunities to make software to help with that. Or within your own business, no matter what you're doing, no matter if you're going into accounting, technology, biopharmaceutical, right? If you need to transform any modality of information into another modality of information, you can probably use AI to do that, right? Same thing with categorization, right? Anytime you have data that you want to categorize, do not waste someone's time doing that manually. Have AI do it, right? Okay, so let's just say you are doing a pharmaceutical trial, and now all of a sudden you have, and obviously HIPAA and all that, you want to be careful, but just for points of giving an example, let's say you have a 100,000 data points, right? And you want to categorize them all by something, right? You want to go in and say, you know, if this result has this, I want you to classify it as this as this, and then hit run, and it'll go through it and classify everything, right? In a way that understands both the lexical and the semantic meaning of what the words are, right? So it's like you got transformation, you got summarization, you got categorization, you have summarization, right? Everybody knows this, right? This is the classic meme of someone writes a long email using so someone takes a bullet point list of an email, then uses AI to make it into a long email, sends it, then someone takes that long email and says, give me the bullet point list of this email, right? Summarizing the email into a couple bullets, right? It's like, well done, everyone, right? But you can use AI if you have this loads of information to summarize it into a little bit of information. And the cousin of summarization that isn't the same thing is needle in the haystack analysis, right? Things that beforehand would take forever. Let's say you have all this data, but there's something in the data you want to find. AI can help you find that needle in the haystack, right? That's part of what we were able to optimize our system to do is that needle in the haystack analysis. But even if you don't have our system, let's just say you have OpenAI or Claude or Gemini, whatever LLM you use, if you're going through your stuff and all right, let's say you're running a business and you have 1,000 transactions that month on your monthly statement, right? But you're trying to figure out, oh man, right? I want to categorize things based on what's a fixed cost, what's not a fixed cost, and then I want to find, I can't remember how much did we spend on pizza this month, right? For our monthly meetings, right? Well, it's like literally just upload all those transactions to your favorite AI, OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, Grok, go nuts, right? There's enough of them. And then you can say, hey, find me all the transactions, as long as the data exists, obviously, right? If it says, pizza next to it, right? Or food or something that would indicate, something that a human could understand, like this is what that would mean, right? And say, hey, find me the instances of these costs, right? And then I can give you a list. Hey, on this date, you bought pizza here. On this date, you bought pizza here. On this date, you bought pizza here. Here were the amounts, and here's the total. Great. Well done. The kind of analogy that I think is very helpful in like people using AI is think of it as one of the world's most enthusiastic, brilliant interns who has no idea about the situation you want them to do, right? And so it's like, what does that mean? Well, just like a human intern, if you had a human intern that was brilliant and enthusiastic, but they knew nothing about what you wanted them to do, well, what would you do? Well, you would say, hey, I want you to do this at the quality of an expert, right? I want you to try to be an expert, right? Same thing with an AI model. When you're using this thing, tell it what you want it to be, right? I want you to be an expert legal advisor. I want you to be an expert CEO, founder who sold their company for billions of dollars, right? To advise me on whatever, right? I want you, this is kind of going into some of the prompt engineering, but I think it could be helpful if no one's heard it, is like be an expert in what you want it to be an expert in. Because then its North Star will be being an expert in that thing, right? It's like, all right, what else would you do? Well, you would give the intern examples, right? Hey, in the past, I did this really well. Here's 10 examples of past old things I did that I want you to emulate the style of, or I want you to emulate the information of, right? So it's like, tell it what you want it to be, give it a role to live up to, right? Give it the context of what you want to be thorough in your description. And this is the thing that people are actually really bad at. People are actually really bad at describing what they want, right? The classic example that I give a couple of presentations is, imagine you're describing, you want to generate a picture, right? And you say, I want a picture of me on a sailboat as a school swims by, right? Obviously, most people would interpret that as a school of fish. Well, in some kind of earlier models, it would literally put like a school bus in the ocean, right? Or like a schoolhouse in the middle of the ocean, right? It's like, no. You want to be descriptive. I want you to make me a National Geographic style picture that has me on a beautiful teal ocean with a sailboat rickety and falling apart like a small sailor would do as a school of fish swims by. Fun fact, AIs can help you prompt AIs better, right? If you say, this is always fun, people don't realize you can literally tell the AI, ask me any questions that it would take for you to do this job better. And it will. And often you'll be like, oh, yeah, good point. I should tell it that. I should tell it that. Give me let me know any information you would need to do this and ask me any questions you need to be able to do this task. Or, hey, here's what I want. Is there a better prompt I should use, right? Because then you're literally having, or, hey, restate what you think I want you to do. And then you can just approve it, right? Yeah, that's perfect. Or, no, before you go off and do that, that's don't do that, right? That's the wrong interpretation, right? Like you can literally use AI to help you do this, right? So whether it's transforming data, summarizing data, categorizing data, needle in the haystack analysis, one other one that I'm forgetting, or some sort of deep learning where like you build a custom system, like every founder today has the leverage of so many people. You hear Sam Altman, right? He thinks that within our lifetimes, you're going to see a single founder that runs $1 billion company because you're going to be using AI to do all these things that you used to need 100,000 person team to be able to do, right? 100-person team or 1,000-person team to do. Whereas now the leverage you have to be so much more of an agent yourself. That's the funny part. As AI agents become more proliferous throughout society, every individual gains individual agency because they have the opportunity to do more. This is the myth of AI like destroying the entire job market is, I was sitting toward the end of my time, I was sitting next to our legislative staffer who was 70 years old. And he looks at me, he goes, when I was your age, they told me by the time I was 70, we'd be working 20 hours a week. Man, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before. What happened? And that's when the light bulb went off. Like, of course you are. Because what technology does is it broadens the horizon of human possibility, right? You now have the leverage. You now have the agency. You now have the possibility to do more than you've ever done before. Therefore, the expectations rise. Never before could you send 1,000 messages to people in one day. Now you can. Never before could you get so much information and news. Now you can. Never before could you generate so much information. And all of those never befores are just compounded 10, 100, 1,000x by AI. And so if you're adventurous, if you're ambitious, if you're clever, if you can spot market niches, like what before you might not have had a shot to do because you didn't have the funding, you didn't have the team, you didn't have the abilities to do, if you are savvy in using AI, you could take on the world. And so I think that's super exciting. Not only are there all these opportunities, kind of like at the beginning of the internet, to like do awesome things, but even if you're not interested in technology at all, just learning to be competent in this technology and use it appropriately can literally just make you the most effective in whatever field you're working on. Just like if you would have learned the internet at the beginning of the internet, right? It doesn't matter if look, imagine you're really interested in basketball, right? And so you want to listen to basketball, but you don't want to have to be tied to a radio. Well, you might make an internet company, right? Or you might, do something. You might learn how to use the internet to get the broadcast of the radio to your house over the internet. Well, congratulations, you're Mark Cuban, who ended up selling his basketball communications company to Yahoo for hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. It's like, no matter what you're passionate in, if you become really good at using this new technology, it will grant you the most possible leverage, the most agency to turn your vision of reality into reality.
I have a question that
Yeah.
our audience probably
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
How can undergraduate students use AI and use these tools to start their businesses, even if they're not technical? Because as you were saying, we're in this golden age of opportunity.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is the best time to start something because of this technology primarily. How can a non-technical undergraduate student use this?
Yeah. So, one, in all the ways we kind of talked about before, right? As you're running your business, as you're growing your business, right? Anytime you want to transform data, summarize data, categorize data, all those things, right? That before you might have had to pay someone or spend hours doing yourself, you can now just work with AI to do. Um, so like it maximizes your time. You can focus on the more valuable things, right? Rather than doing the repetitive work. If you learn how to be, look, if AI went nowhere, if the foundation models got no better today, there's still such a learning curve of people that aren't even using. The wildest statistic that I saw recently is, so OpenAI recently changed their system to GPT-5, right? And what GPT-5 did is it replaced this plethora of other models, right? And now some of those models are coming back. But basically, GPT-5, it said, we're going to have the AI model select which model you should use. And I was reading something, and it said, obviously, there was all these people that were using OpenAI 4.0, but like 7% of users were using O3, which blew my mind. I'm like, wait, 7% of users are using O3. O3 is the most advanced agentic model that OpenAI allowed. When I say agentic model, it could take something to do, it could think about it, it could go out and search for it, it could recursively solve problems. It could literally ask itself questions, answer those questions, come up with better questions to get you a better answer. And 7% of people were using it. Like, you know, imagine if you could willingly increase your IQ to be in the top 7% of society. If you learn how to be effective in using OpenAI's ChatGPT, Claude's Anthropic, Google Gemini, xAI's Grok, Microsoft Copilot, if you learn to really use it, right? You learn how to build a custom GPT, how to prompt all these things, how to the horizon of what you can do and your efficiency and effectiveness in attaining your mission just goes through the roof.
So if I were to excuse me,
Yeah.
if I were to summarize what you're saying, I mean, it sounds like to me like what our mission is to basically tell all our entrepreneurs to just jump and start their business. And you're
Yeah.
saying just start using AI, and you'll
Yeah.
inherently learn how to use it as you use it.
Yes. Just do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
great.
Just do it. You know, that's hey, should we apply to this pitch competition? Just do it. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? You waste a couple hours filling something out. But I always think it's really interesting to think about things as like ROI, right? Okay, I'm going to apply for this thing. It might take 10 hours to apply. But if we win, if we get $20,000, okay, so if it took 10 hours, $20,000, that's what, $200 an hour? Pretty darn good ROI there, or $2,000 an hour, like pretty good ROI there, right? It's like just do it. Like people massively overweight. Like I think a lot of people stop very short of what's possible. It's like if you want to start a business, you should be just like overdoing everything, right? Like volume sometimes solves all problems, right? Talking to a lot more people in the industry, spending more hours building, like just doing more of the things. Very frequently, people have decent ideas about what to do. They just don't do enough of it, right? Because we're in an age of I see a short or I see a movie or I see whatever, and the hero goes from 0 to having a $1 billion business in 2 hours, right? And obviously everyone knows that's fake, but then people are surprised when they spend 3 months and haven't seen any results. It's like, yeah, welcome to the world, right? I think so. Figma just IPO'd, right? Figma is a big tech company right now, and they just IPO'd. And after they IPO'd, I think they went up like 200%. It was a massive success for Figma. Well,
That's the graphic design, right?
graphic design, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Graphic design company Figma, that literally started as a meme generator, okay? Imagine you start and you make a meme generator, something that helps people create memes, and you just IPO'd and your company is now worth like $200 billion because you ended up pivoting into um, being one of the best software for front end design for developers. And so now you're used by all the Fortune 500 companies, right? It's like there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. But one of them is there was some metric I saw the other day of the time it took the company to get from when they like founded the company to when they got what like the business people would call product market fit. It took them 6 years. Like they didn't see revenue, they didn't see product market fit for 6 years. And they just IPO'd their company for like, you know, multiple hundreds of, billions of dollars. I don't know the exact number. But it's like, so if you've worked on your thing for a month and you think it's not working, it could be a bad idea or you maybe just haven't put in the reps. It's like you could have the most optimal training schedule in the world, but you're not going to become Arnold Schwarzenegger in a month, right? It's the same thing with a business. You can have the best. Look, everyone sees on social media the replets, the cursors, right? That they're doing 10 million ARR in a year, right? That's now the standard. It's like no, that's not the standard. That's the exception, right? There's a bell curve of businesses. They're on the very end of the bell curve. That isn't the expectation. That isn't the bar. That's the exception, right? And that happens. And look, try to be that 100%. If you can, get it. Go nuts. But also realize most business ideas that will stand the test of time, that aren't just flash in the pans, they're going to take time to build. It's the classic Rome wasn't built in a day. So even if you have the best idea and the most optimized way of doing it, just like if you have the best training schedule and the most optimized way to do it, it might take you some time. And using AI is like using steroids in that analogy. So,
Well, and
yeah.
and the replets and the reaching 10 million ARR in a year is what's shown on social media all the time, right? It's
Oh,
the
yeah. Yeah.
it's the classes to get to 10 million followers on
Yep.
Instagram in a month. And I think one of our goals is to show how that's not it's not reality, although it is possible.
Yep.
Uh, but it's that consistent hard work, like you said, that'll get you there. And
Yep.
so for both of y'all, starting this in college, I mean, I know a lot of my friends at school and people I talk to, they say, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm taking 18 hours of
Yeah.
classes. I've got these
Yeah.
groups that I'm part of with my scholarship and the
Yeah.
trying to be a leader in this area."
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Keep it going, but also
Yeah.
how do you all make time to work on your business as well? Because in reality, when you're in college, you just have the most time that you'll ever have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's someone out there who is uh 4.0 student taking 18 hours and
Uh-huh.
leading a couple organizations and they think, "Oh, I don't have the time to start a business." They do. But how would you convince them and what strategies would you give them to take advantage of that time?
That's a good question because I was one of the students that took 21 hours and decided to start a business.
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, it comes out of nowhere. These opportunities, just I would say just to try and take any opportunity given to you, and you never know what'll spark from it. Whenever he sent out those emails for starting the class, and I was already taking 18 hours at the time, and the class sounded pretty
Yeah.
freaking cool. So I was like, what's one more class? So I need some honors credits anyways. Let's do this thing. And it was really tough for a second, balancing that and senior design and all the other hellish classes that we had to take as engineers. And you know, you never know where all different opportunities are going to present themselves, and just you never know when it's going to come. I'm sure
Mhm.
Colin thought the same thing whenever we partnered up for the first time in the class project. Even after the class ended
Mhm.
and completely, we had no idea that this was going to be an incredible part of our lives.
Mhm.
And creating a company from scratch, we had no idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the times it it will come naturally, I feel
Yeah.
like, as long as you take all the opportunities given to you.
Yeah. I mean, that's straight from the art of war. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. And how do you seize the opportunities in front of you? Well, the same way. So my freshman year of university, I was involved in the Air Force ROTC program here, and we decided to do something that just seemed impossible to me at the time, which was we said, all right, what if we put 40 pounds on our back and rucked all the way to Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, right? So Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 40 pounds on our back. We're going to walk at a fast pace to Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. And I thought, I have bad ankles and bad knees, that is impossible. Cannot do that, right? So, but it was funny. I kind of offered to help them plan it, right? So we were planning all this, planning. All right, what's the rotation going to look like? What supplies do we need to make sure people don't drop down, and make sure that all the cars have the water, make sure to do all this organization stuff. At the very last moment, one of them said, "All right, come on, where's your bag?" I'm like, well, I can't do that. They're like, sure you can. It's walking. You do it every day. Worst comes to worst, we'll put you in the back of the car. You can ride, and that's like a multiple. That's two things at once, right? One, that's the how does a mouse eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? Well, how do you do the ruck march? How do you build a company? How do you do anything? One step at a time, right? You don't do it all overnight. This is kind of going back to the thing of it takes time of well, take that opportunity, do that well, take that opportunity. Oh, you might need to pivot a little bit, right? But every step along that road brings you closer to where you're going there, right? And so the more you can chip away, hey, when we started working on this, we didn't go all in. We started, like I said, nine to midnight, right? It's like, all right, let's chip in a little bit here. We chip in a little bit here, chip in a little bit here. Oh, wait, it's doing some cool stuff. This is kind of working. Chip in a little bit here, chip in a little bit here, chip in a little bit here. Hey, there's this pitch competition. We should apply to that. Chip in, chip in, chip in. Hey, all right, we didn't do it at SEC. Chip in, chip in, chip in. Oh, we just got accepted to another pitch competition. Chip, chip, chip. Oh, we just won a pitch competition. Chip, chip, chip. Oh, we just got accepted to the top 10 of the Farm Bureau's Ag Innovation Challenge. Chip, chip, chip. One step at a time. And so sometimes, I think we've both been in that boat of being super busy in university. But I think the best way to compare your time to a university is like a sushi buffet, right? You can always have one more piece of sushi. And even if you can't, what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst is that you fail. And often failure does not mean death, right? There are some situations where failure means death. And in that case, be careful, right? But in most situations, you won't die. And failure, if you actually think it through, that's like two thought exercises. Well, what if this goes as well as it possibly could go? That's great. What if this goes as bad as it possibly could go? What if it completely fails? And very often when you run that, what if it fails, you'll find that yeah, that'll suck, but we'll be all right. you know, and so, and also going back to that's the famous man in the arena, right? Even if you fail, at least you'll be in the arena. At least you won't be among those poor and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Yeah. Just like you were saying earlier about looking for ROI and everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all had started Farm Smarter, I mean, y'all want a little bit of money into pitch competitions. There's no financial downside if this goes bad, right?
Yeah.
You're not putting your own money in at this point. And worst case, you lose the pitch competition money and you gained all this experience learning about AI, learning about farming that
Mm-hmm.
at some point down the road you'd like to think will benefit you in some way rather than, like you said, just sitting on the sidelines and watching someone else do it.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier about just kind of picking up the little pebbles as you go, and eventually you'll get to where you're supposed to be. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it doesn't have to be a spend 40 hours a week on this one thing. Start small. Go talk
Mhm.
to your customer. Go talk to your professor and start taking a class or get some mentorship about what you're trying to do. And Grant, like you said, I think it'll kind of build over time if it's meant to be, and your interest and your um, willingness to give up more time and spend more time on it will grow as well. I
Yeah.
100% agree.
Well, and I think it's also really advantageous, like, study founders. Like, something
Yeah.
I mean, this is something I've always been interested in, but I think it helps, like, read the biographies of folks that have been successful founders, right? Read the biography of how Apple came into be, how Microsoft came into be, of Walter Isaacson's about Elon Musk, Walter
Mm.
Isaacson's about Benjamin Franklin, right? You start to see the trends, like most people don't know that for Apple's first product, the Lisa, was an absolute failure. Like it just didn't really like they invested all this time, they invested all this money, they didn't really make a return. But they learned a lot and they learned about what needed to be in the next iteration. So then when they did the Mac, that was a good product, right? It's very rare in the course of company building that the very first conception of what you're doing, ideas don't come out fully formed, right? They come out rough and not polished, and sometimes even the wrong, shape and size and all that. But the only way to know is through doing it. The only way is through working it through and finding, oh, this is what we're doing. Oh, this is where the opportunity is. Oh, this is what we're doing. And you only do that by taking those incremental opportunities that are presented to you. And like, also, I think most people have more time than they think. Like, people don't realize how much time, especially in the modern era, that we just like waste away, whether it's
And
watching.
on that,
Yeah,
Put a
right,
put a
right.
time limit on all your apps and use that just 1 hour a day
Yeah.
just to think what you could have done.
But listen to podcasts all the time. You can always listen to podcasts like this one while you're eating, while you're walking, while you're running. So you should listen to this all the time. But generally, like other things that waste your time, yeah, you don't realize how much time you're spending, how much time you're wasting. Like, I just remember there was this exercise we did as residential assistants where they like made us make the pie of like all of our time. And you realize like very little of your time is productive, right? And if you just cut out here, like if you go from being 50% productive to 60% productive, that's awesome. If you go from 60 to 75, holy heck. And you look at like some of the people that are like the famous founders in our world, like they're like 95% just on, right? They've got so many, now they've got resources as well, but like they've cut out everything. And sometimes that's to their detriment, but they've cut out so much that isn't the signal, right? That isn't them working on the thing. And so it's like audit your own life. Like be very ruthless. Like, all right, let's map out. What am I doing with my time? Do I keep a calendar, right? What am I doing every time? Am I spending a ton of time, wasting a ton of time on this? Or am I genuinely like utilizing my time? There's very few people I met in university that genuinely don't have time.
Mhm.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
all about like maximizing the signal and eliminating the noise,
Mhm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's what we were talking about. I think
Yep.
I use this analogy a lot. It's all about just taking swings and just playing the game and remembering that you're not going to hit the ball first
Uh-huh.
swing, second swing, third swing, but you're learning how to swing better. And eventually you're going to hit the ball and it's going to work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Turner, you had something?
No,
Yeah.
I just completely agree. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's just time, and the more time you spend, the higher the percentages that you're gonna figure it out. So
I think it's patience. I think patience is so
patience.
underrated and everyone wants
Mm.
rapid success and everyone wants overnight success. And if I think the I think the best founders are the most patient founders.
I don't know. That's maybe not a great sign. I don't know if I've been that patient for a lot of things.
Well, maybe
I tend to be very overly aggressive on getting things done. Uh, hmm.
No, patience more about
Yeah.
sticking with it.
Yeah, resilience.
Yeah.
yes. I think
Resilience is
that's
Resilience.
the
crucial.
word.
Right.
But don't wait for
Yes.
things to happen. Make things happen. Have a bias toward
Yeah.
action, right? Don't wait for the thing to happen. Like have that bias toward action, make it happen, right? You need to be incredibly
Execute it.
resilient. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
do it.
Just do it.
Yes.
Oh, one of the greatest slogans of all time. I hope we don't get sued for saying it.
Yeah, right? All right. Well, y'all, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us on.
I have one more question for them.
Okay, sweet.
So hopefully we could get this in 2 minutes or less. But if there was one thing that we had to do to improve using AI, what would it be? what would be one thing you said we have to do this?
Research, to spend an hour researching what models are available and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and read through every prompt engineering guide you can get your hands on.
Cool.
And
That's,
Where
that's
can we
my
find
answer. I don't
those?
know what yours is.
I would say just use it. Yeah, I
Just
mean,
do it. Right.
anytime you have a problem, a question, and anything, and you catch yourself using Google or something, like just put it through that, and then just see what it says. You know, I was incredibly hesitant to use this technology for a while. Like when it first came out, I didn't use it for like a year. I was kind of scared of it, honestly. But once I finally took that big step and asked that my first question, and then I asked it my first 5 questions, and then I asked it my first 500 questions, then I was like, "Whoa, like, these are the capabilities of these systems?"
Yeah, also just, like, experiment with it. You don't know what it can do until
Experiment.
you try. Like, a lot of people don't realize that you can just ask it to give you a Word document. You can just ask it to give you an Excel document. You can just ask it to do things, and again, if you ask it to do something and it says, "I can't do that," or it tries and fails, alright, but the one time you ask it to do something and it does it, and you didn't know it could do that, oh my gosh, like, imagine the
Mhm.
time and
Yeah.
how that's going to compound over a lot of time of your efficiency gains. So, like, just ask
Big
it to
thing.
do stuff, see what happens, but do it
Awesome.
intelligently. Learn prompt
Mhm.
engineering, see what models you're using, so you're using the right models, you know?
Mm. All
Yeah,
right. All right. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure having you.
no doubt.
And how can we get people to you?
So obviously you can see what we're up to at farmsmarter.ai. Literally, if you just type that into the URL, farmsmarter.ai, you can see the website. We each have social medias. I'm just Colin_Raby on literally everything. Grant is, I'm pretty sure, just Grant Muslow
Grand
on like
Muslow,
everything.
Grand Dash Muslow, something.
Yeah, and we're gonna start. We just made a blog page for farmsmarter.ai, so we're gonna actually start like posting a lot more stuff.
Mm.
We posted our first blog recently when it came to the Farm Bureau Challenge. We're gonna be posting a lot more. I know I do some stuff personally, but yeah, yeah, we're both out
Great.
there, and no, we appreciate this, and we appreciate what y'all are doing. And please, let us know if we can at all help get the message and the intention of empowering people to turn. I mean, what is a company? It's turning your dream into a reality, right? Taking a vision of the future, of a future that's better, and making it the future that you actually live in, right? And like that's entrepreneurialism. That's what y'all are trying to encourage. And let's get after it. Let us know how we can help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're just trying to share this out to as many people as possible. And I mean, getting to meet you guys and hear all y'all's amazing stories and how successful you are has been a blast. And I think once people start kind of hearing these types of things, and they're going to really see the value in it. So,
No doubt. No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Great meeting y'all and great talking today.
Absolutely.
Wishing you the best.
No doubt. Hope to see you down the line.
Great. Thank you. Let's wrap.